Humans, top of the food chain, masters of the mind, and yet endlessly entertained by pets doing goofy antics. But not all animal encounters end in laughter. An elderly woman in India is tragically killed by an elephant, only for the same elephant to storm her funeral and attack again. Sounds personal, right? This wild tale hints at a deeper truth about animal rage and revenge. This isn't the first time an elephant has made headlines with extraordinary behavior. Elephants have a long history of making their voices heard, and no story illustrates this better than the haunting tale of Tyke.
Tyke, she required a lot more discipline because she was strong-willed, and she just fought tooth and nail to not have to do what she was doing.
An elephant whose final act left the world stunned. A circus elephant going out of control of their circus was not unprecedented. According to Tyrone Taylor, the elephant's responsible trainer at the time, Tyke had been involved in 3 incidents prior to the attack of August 1994. On April 21, 1993, during a performance at the Jaffa Shrine Center in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Tyke broke free, charging through the front doors and rampaging untethered for an entire hour. The chaos left over $14,000 in damages, a testament to his raw power and pent-up rage. Reports from a circus worker, later obtained by the USDA, revealed that Tyke had even attacked a tiger trainer before the event ended. This wasn't just a moment of madness, it was a breaking point for an elephant who had endured a life of suffering.
Ears out, picked up a trunk full of hay and threw it at me. And I looked at that elephant and I said, uh-oh.
To understand Tyke's story, we need to look back at who she was and what led to that fateful day of August 1994. Tyke, an African bush elephant born in Mozambique in 1973, was more than just an animal performing tricks. She was a living, breathing soul, captured as a young calf and torn from her homeland. At only 2 years old, she was taken and thrust into a life she never chose. For nearly 20 years, Tyke endured the harsh, unrelenting conditions of captivity, moving from one circus to another, subjected to severe training and abuse meant to break her spirit.
She used to throw the balls and catch batons and ring the bell, and she used to ride a tricycle.
They stayed chained up 22 hours a day.
She was instantly expecting some type of discipline.
The trauma and mistreatment Tyke had endured had reached a breaking point, and the world was about to see the full force of her suffering. To understand Tyke's tragic journey, we need to go deeper into the life of this majestic creature and the untold story that led to her final moments. It's a tale that asks us, how much can one being endure before they fight back? On July 23, 1993, Tyke's pain and suffering erupted once again, this time at the North Dakota State Fair in Minot. For 23 harrowing minutes, she rampaged through the grounds, injuring her handler, Michael Persley, and sending shockwaves of fear through the crowd. But this moment of chaos was just the culmination of years of relentless abuse and brutal treatment. Documents from the USDA and Canadian law enforcement paint a picture of the cruelty Tyke endured. While performing with the Tarzan Zerbini Circus, an incident was recorded in which Persley was seen beating Tyke in public with such force that she screamed, dropping to 3 legs in an attempt to shield herself from further blows. The sight of Tyke, her body contorted in agony, and the raw sound of her screams were more than just shocking. They were a cry for help that echoed through the grounds. Even when Persley passed by her afterward, she cowered and veered away, her fear palpable and undeniable. Tyke's behavior was a testament to her spirit, but also to the severe, systematic abuse she suffered every day of her life. The strikes, the intimidation, and the abuse were intended to break her, to force compliance through fear and pain. Yet each act of cruelty only fueled the growing storm within her. The bond between human and animal dissolved long before the rampage at the North Dakota State Fair. By then, Tyke had become a living symbol of suffering and resistance, a creature whose patience had been pushed past its limit. And this was just one of many moments that revealed the true horror of what she had endured.
I said, Alan, that's the only thing I can really tell you is she shouldn't be doing this. And you need to be careful.
It was August 20th, 1994, a day etched in infamy. Under the glaring lights of the Circus International in Honolulu, Hawaii, Tyke stepped into the ring for what would become her final performance. The audience, eager for spectacle, had no idea they were about to witness a tragedy unlike anything the circus world had ever seen. The breaking point came suddenly. Tyke, burdened by years of abuse, snapped. Her immense frame surged forward, trampling and critically injuring her groomer Dallas Beckwith. Witnesses watched in horror as she flung him like a rag doll, her sheer power unleashed in a frenzy of rage and pain. Alan Campbell, her trainer, rushed into the chaos, desperately trying to save Beckwith. But Tyke's fury knew no bounds. She turned on Campbell, knocking him to the ground with her trunk before dragging and crushing him beneath her massive body. The crowd's cheers turned to screams, children clinging to their parents as panic swept through the arena. Amid the chaos, Tyke didn't stop. She charged out of the ring, breaking through barriers and heading straight for the exit. Publicist Steve Hirano attempted to block her path in the parking lot, but she barreled past, injuring him as she made her escape. This was no longer a performance, it was a desperate bid for freedom, years of torment erupting in a single devastating act of defiance. A police officer nearby spotted the commotion and opened fire, the sharp crack of gunshots cutting through the air. The bullets struck Tyke, but they did little to slow her down. Startled and bleeding, she fled into the streets of Honolulu, her massive 8,000-pound body lumbering through the city in a scene both surreal and heartbreaking. Sirens wailed as officers pursued her, their weapons drawn, determined to end the chaos. For half an hour, Tyke evaded capture, her once majestic form now marked with wounds and blood. She slowed, her movements growing sluggish as the toll of her injuries began to show. Then, in a final barrage, local police fired 86 rounds, each shot tearing into her body, her cries echoing across the streets. Finally, she collapsed, a mountain of flesh and muscle crumpling to the pavement. Her enormous frame lay still, blood pooling around her as life slipped away. But even in death, Tyke's story was far from over. Her rampage, her suffering, and her tragic end became a symbol of the cruelty endured by animals forced into captivity. Tyke's final moments were not just a cry of defiance, but a plea for change, a heartbreaking reminder of the cost of ignoring the pain of the voiceless. The tragedy of Tyke's final rampage sparked a global conversation about the ethics of animal captivity and the darker truths behind circus performances. In the wake of the incident, Tyke became a symbol of the horrors endured by animals in the entertainment industry, forcing a reckoning with long-standing practices. The aftermath was marked by legal battles and public outcry. Lawsuits were filed against multiple parties, including Tyke's owner, John Cuneo Jr., the Hawthorne Corporation, and Circus International. Among the plaintiffs were young children who witnessed the carnage and were left with deep psychological trauma. While the cases were settled out of court, the details of the settlements remained sealed, leaving the true cost of Tyke's suffering to linger in the public imagination. The incident also left its mark on legislation. In Hawaii and other parts of the world, laws regulating the use of wild animals in entertainment were introduced or strengthened. Congressman Sam Farr attempted to push national legislation through the U.S. House of Representatives, while countries like the Netherlands went on to implement bans on wild animals in circuses. Slowly but surely, Tyke's story began to shape the policies that would prevent similar tragedies. In popular culture, Tyke's story has been immortalized as a haunting cautionary tale. She was featured in shows like the History Channel's Shockwave and World's Most Amazing Videos, and her name was echoed in music. The hard rock band 86 Bullets named themselves in reference to the number of shots it took to bring her down, dedicating the song Hail of Bullets to her tragic end. Christian thrash metal band Tourniquet also honored Tyke in their song 86 Bullets from the album Antiseptic Bloodbath. Even television dramas like Hawaii 5-0 wove her story into their scripts.
Broke out of her cage the day before the show. HPD had no choice. They shot and killed her.
Referencing her rampage in the episode Ka Hanaile, Rampage. Through these depictions, Tyke's legacy transcended her death, sparking conversations about animal rights with every retelling. Tyke's story is a reminder of the immense cost of forcing wild creatures into lives of confinement and servitude. Her rampage wasn't just a tragedy, it was a cry for freedom, a desperate act of defiance against a system built on exploitation. And while her life ended in violence, her memory lives on, driving change in an industry that can no longer ignore the voices of the animals it seeks to control.